Let's talk about perspective. Proper perspective for the believer, for the follower of God, is a matter of extreme importance. Without proper perspective, it's impossible for us to approach the scriptures, to approach God's will for our lives as Christ followers, because we will be unable to see ourselves in the correct place within the grand plan of God. In order to have a proper perspective when it comes to God, we have to understand both sides of the equation. We have to understand God, and we have to understand ourselves. And to do that, we just need to go to the Scripture, because that gives us a really clear picture of both. Scripture does not mince words when it talks about the greatness of God. In Isaiah 55:9 it says, "For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." This is, of course, God speaking to humanity. And what God is conveying here is that His nature, His wisdom, His power, His knowledge, His eternal being, puts Him in a position where His thoughts and His understanding of our lives and of everything that impacts our lives as humans is so much greater than ours. Of course, all of His thoughts are higher than our thoughts, but He thinks about things that our minds can't even attain to. But even when it comes down to our own thoughts and understanding of ourselves, of our life, of our future, of our hopes, of our dreams, God is saying to us, my thoughts for you are greater than anything you could ever have. My thoughts for the world are greater than anything you could ever have. My thoughts for humanity are greater than anything you could ever have. So if you don't understand my thoughts, if you don't understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, just remember that my thoughts and my ways are infinitely higher than you, because I am infinitely higher than you. I am the greatest being in the universe. I made the universe. I sustain the universe. So my thinking and my actions are beyond human questioning, because they come from a source that is infinitely higher than man's wisdom. From man's perspective, King David put it best in Psalm 115, verse 3, when he said, "Our God is in the heavens. He does all that He pleases." This is a beautiful statement. It's very childlike. David doesn't need to understand everything. He just sees God for who He is and acknowledges that God sits in the heavens and He does whatever He wants. God is that powerful. Who can challenge God? And a trap here would be to read into David's statement. It would be to read into it and say, well, God's a big bully who sits up in the sky. But that's not what David is saying. David understands all the other attributes of God. He wrote many, many works in the Scripture that detail out how much he enjoyed the other attributes of God, how much he understood the other attributes of God, His mercy, His holiness, His righteousness, and so on. But David's just making a simple statement. He's getting down to the very bottom line of the issue. God sits in the heavens, and He does whatever He pleases, because that's who God is, and that's who we are. And to see how this works in unison together, God with man, Job 40:6 through 14 ties it all together. When it says, "Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, 'Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you will make it known to me. Will you ever put me in the wrong? Will you condemn me that you may be in the right? Have you an arm like God, and can you thunder with a voice like His? Adorn yourself with majesty and dignity. Clothe yourself with glory and splendor. Pour out the overflowings of your anger, and look on everyone who is proud, and abase him. Look on everyone who is proud, and bring him low, and tread down the wicked where they stand. Hide them all in the dust together. Bind their faces in the world below. Then will I also acknowledge to you that your own right hand can save you." See, God was explaining to Job, you can't do what I can do. You're not able to be who I am, because I am unique. But we know from the end of Job's story that God just didn't leave it there. God rescued Job. Why? Because of His great love for Job. Proper perspective starts when we understand that God sits enthroned in the heavens and does whatever He pleases, but we also understand that what God was actually pleased to do was to crush His own Son, Jesus Christ, on the cross to make a way of salvation for us. When we see God like that, then we will have proper perspective. As you think about these things, take time to evaluate your life based on this question. How does my perspective need to change based on what Scripture teaches me about who God is and who I am and the relationship between God and man?